Hello there. My mystery recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain the American science fiction comedy film called Ideocracy. Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The premise of the movie is set in the year 2005. At the beginning of the movie, it is narrated the human evolution is at a turning point. Most science fiction series predict that the future of humans is going to be more advanced, with smarter people. But because humans are already on top of the food chain, their evolution takes a turn for the worst. People grow dumber with time as such conditions. The U.S. Army librarian Corporal Joe Vowers is approached by the seniors, proposing he'll be a part of an important experiment. Joe, who had plans to stay librarian until retirement, is annoyed, but he has to follow orders. Then we are taken to a private meeting between some high-ranking military officials. General Collins presents this idea to the other officers. He says that the scientists have invented a human hibernation pods that can preserve human beings for an indefinite amount of time. It is so humans can preserve their finest man at their prime, and revive them in the time of need. They have chosen Joe to be the first test experiment. Because he is the most average man in the military, and has no immediate family. Similarly, they also required a woman for the experiment. But they didn't have a perfect fit in the military. Hence, Collins chooses a prostitute named Rita. He shows the officers pictures of him and Rita's manager Upgrade, partying together. But it makes everyone in the room uncomfortable. He ends the presentation by saying that the subject will be put into the pods tomorrow and the experiment will go on for a year. Since the experiment is highly classified, the officials present in the room aren't allowed to share the information with anyone. The next day, Joe and Rita are together in a waiting room. Joe introduces himself and asks Rita what sector she's from, not wanting to reveal that she is a prostitute. Rita says that she is a painter. Then both of them are put on and enter to human hibernation pods. Rita freaks out and tries getting up. But Joe shares her that the scientists know what they're doing. He tells her they will only be inside for a year. So, it will be perfectly fine. At last, the two are sealed inside the pods. However, things start to go wrong when Officer Collins is arrested as part of an attempted prostitution ring. Along with him, Upgrade is also arrested for being the ringmaster of the prostitution ring. Hence, now no one is there to look after the hibernation pods. Because of the scandal, the military base is closed. And the building the pods are in is demolished. Joe and Rita lie dormant in the pods as the years pass by. Although things look bad for the two, there are even worse for mankind. Humans begin to evolve into stupider beings at a frightening rate. The chart of average intelligence goes downhill with time. Some people have high hopes that genetic engineering and science will be able to correct the trend of evolution. But the smartest scientists in the world are focusing on stupid experiments, like trying to reverse hair loss or prolonging erections. In other words, they doing God's work. In the meantime, the population explodes. And intelligence continues to decline until the year 2505. All these years people aren't able to solve basic human problems, like a garbage disposal. So, the garbage has been stacked for centuries, with no plan whatsoever. This creates a great garbage avalanche of 2505. And one day a massive garbage landslide causes Joe's hibernation pod to end up in a random house. Joe gets out of the pod, dizzy and confused. The person in the house is named Frito Pendejo. Frito completely ignores the pile of garbage and the stranger on his house, and continues watching a weird show on TV. The frame is littered with advertisements. And the show consists entirely with a guy getting kicked in the nut. He only gets up to ask Joe not to make a noise. We see that his couch also has a toilet. So, he wouldn't have to get up time and again. He then kicked Joe out of the window. The outside world seems confusing to Joe. And he says to himself, so much has changed in just a year. A little does he know, he has entered the year 2505. He sees a group of people by the side of the road, who talk in slang and grunts. Joe is able to understand them. But when he speaks like his normal self, they call him slurs and chased him away. A confused Joe also feels dizzy. So, he decides to go to a nearby hospital. There, he goes to the receptionist and tells the receptionist that he's from the army. The woman doesn't understand anything. It's just press one of the many buttons on her desk. A voice asks Joe to proceed to the diagnostic area on the right. Confused, he goes to drink some water from a water fountain. But it supplies an energy drink called Brondo instead of water. When Joe asked a bystander where he can drink water, the man laughs at Joe for wanting to drink something they used for toilets. Then he goes to the diagnostic area, where he has put plugs into his mouth, ears, and anus. The health professional mismatches the plug that he already put into those areas. A disgusted Joe completes the procedure and is sent to a doctor. While waiting, he sees the date 2505 written on a magazine, but dismisses it as a missed print. The doctor arrives and answers all of Joe's questions about his health with phrases like, "kick ass." He also declares Joe is retarded and asked him to pay a fee of $5 billion. Just then, Joe notices 2505 written on the bill. He finally realizes that he's actually been inside the pod for 500 years. Joe almost doesn't believe it. He goes to the window, only to be surprised to see the current condition of the city. Meanwhile, the doctor freaked out because Joe doesn't have a citizen tattoo on his wrist. Joe panics and runs away from the hospital, while the doctor called the police on him for not paying his bills. A voice narrates that Joe has woken up to a world in crisis. The economy is in deep neglect. A great dust fall has rubbished all food supply. And the #1 movie in the country is called Ass. He goes to watch the movie that won a bunch of Oscars, including Best Screenplay, only it's staring at someone's ass for 90 straight minutes. At night, he's arrested for being unscannable and take him to a court. There he is giving a lawyer who happens to be Frito Pendejo, the guy that met Joe first. Frito makes fun of him as everyone in the court laughs. Joe presents his case sensibly and explains why he isn't scannable. But the lawyers and judge just laugh at him. At last, the judge declares him some guilty and sentenced him to jail. Meanwhile, Rita also comes out of the pod and is trying to contact her manager and boyfriend Upgrade. She is unsuccessful as the phone asked her for $2,000 to contact him. Just then, she's approached by a man who she tricks to get his money. At the same time, Joe is taken to an automated tattoo place, where the citizens are given the identification tattoo that makes them scannable. The machine asked his name, but Joe starts to explain that he's not sure what is going on. Because of this, the machine reads his name as not sure, and tattoos is on his wrist. Then, he is taken to an aptitude and IQ test, and asked questions about basic addition. Joe answers all of them correctly, and he is surprised to see people around him not being able to identify shapes. After that, is taken to the prison. He finally begins to realize that everyone in the current world is stupid. So, he tells the guardian that he is supposed to get out of jail today. The stupid guard let him walk away, but the alarm catches that an inmate has run away, and the police chase him down the street. Joe somehow gets away from them, and goes to Frito's place again. He believes that someone has created a time machine within the past 500 years, and asked Frito's help to get into one. Frito doesn't agree to help Joe, but Joe tricked him by saying he will give him $8 billion for his help. Eventually Frito reveals that he knows where the time machine is, because Frito loves money. Just then, the police knock on the door looking for Joe. The two run away through the window, and drive to the museum. On their way, they meet Rita, who is still skimming the same guy. Rita gets in the car, and she's worried that Upgrade is looking for the money that she has in. Is still oblivious that he is already dead. As they drive in, something from outside the car scans Joe's wrist, and the police are notified of his location. The car's battery runs out, and they get out of it. Right after, the police approached the car and fired at it. Soon a bunch of people joined and start fighting each other in excitement. Joe, Frito and Rita run away, in hopes of getting to the time machine. Frito then takes the two to Costco, which is now a center of all trades. He even claimed to study the law in Costco. As they wait for the metro, Rita goes to the bathroom. Before she returns, Joe's wrist is accidentally scanned again, and the whole place is alerted of a criminal present. The metro arrives, and Frito get on it. But Joe wait for Rita, only to get caught by the police. However, this time he's taken to the White House, instead of prison. There, a confused Joe meets the President Camacho, and his secretary. Camacho makes fun of him, saying that he thought that Joe's head would be bigger, because he's smart. It turns out that the IQ test that Joe took in prison surprised everyone, because he had the highest score they have ever seen. Hence, because of his intelligence, the president makes Joe the new Secretary of Interior. To Joe's surprise, they also declare him the smartest man in the world. Everyone then goes to the House of Representatives. When the president announces that the problems of food scarcity and the dust fall will be solved by their new Secretary of Interior, Mr. Not Sure. He also promises to pardon Joe's prison time if he solves the problem. After that, a cabinet meeting is held, and the secretary asks Joe to say something smart. Joe says some random complicated words, making them believe that he is in fact smart. Then, Joe asked Frito to draw a map of the location of the time machine, until he can distract the secretary. Later, he takes them to a field, where crops are supposed to be grown. He also asked him to get Rita, because she might be able to help them with the crops. Frito secretly hands Joe the map. At the same time, Rita arrives there. Joe takes her on site, planning to run away using the map. But his plans fails, when they see that Frito's map it's just a couple squiggly lines. Then, Joe realizes the people have been watering the crops with the energy drink Brown Dough. He holds a cabinet meeting to start using water instead of Brown Dough. The secretaries think this idea is atrocious, because Brown Dough has electrolytes. So, instead of reasoning with them, he simply tells them that he can talk to the plants and they want water. Joe doesn't know that the energy drink has caused salt to develop over topsoil, which kill the plants and cause the dust fall. Hence, he's actually solving their problems. For a few days, everything goes as planned. But soon, Brown Dough's stock drops to zero, because of the decreased production. This leaves half the population unemployed. They riot outside the White House. In the scene that early foreshadowed the stupidity of the United States, the news announces that Joe is taken to court for making people unemployed. And he's proven to be guilty. He's sentenced to 1 night in rehabilitation. In the New World, rehabilitation is where the criminal is chased by a large monster truck in an arena. As the audience cheers for the truck, the rehabilitation mostly ends with the criminal death. Joe is taken into the arena, while Rita sadly returns to the White House, ready to go to the time machine with Frito. The rehabilitation is broadcasted on national television. Joe is chased by a massive killing truck, as he drives around in a small car, with a dildo strapped to the hood. Just then, Rita notices a rose plant growing outside. She realizes that Joe's idea to water the plants has worked, and asked Frito to take her to the arena. She plans to broadcast the crops on the Jumbotron, so Joe's punishment would be pardoned. Meanwhile, Joe is still trying to save his life from the death truck. Rita reaches there on time, and bribes the cameraman to go with Frito and film the growing crops. She then goes to the monitoring room and takes over the control panel. Frito finally gets to the field and films the crops. He clips is broadcasted on a large screen. Seeing this, President Camacho saved Joe from the killed, and pardoned him on his punishment, making the crowd erupt in cheers. Now, everyone is at a frat party in the White House. Rita reveals that she doesn't want to return home, because she likes the future better. Joe is surprised but doesn't force her to come with him. The two say their final goodbye. But before Joe leaves, the president calls him on stage and declares him as the new vice president. Everyone looks at Joe with hopeful eyes, making him agree to stay in 2505. Then one person calls the time machine a stupid ride anyway. Frito takes a confused Joe to the machine, and it is finally revealed that the time machine is actually just a children's ride. The scene cuts to a few months later, when Joe is elected as the President of the United States, and Rita becomes his wife, and the First Lady. Under his leadership, a new era dawns, and people hope that humans can once again become smart. He even has 3 kids with Rita, who are set to be the smartest kid in the world.